My name is Denis. I'm 76. I live in a house that leans on the slope of a street that once smelled of bread, but now only of dampness and oblivion. The bricks are peeling, the windows are covered in the cobwebs of time. My house, like me, is no longer part of the city, but a stain on its edge. People used to come here for advice. Now, even the postwoman avoids it because he won't open it anyway. I'll open it, of course. I'm always at home. I just don't have anyone to turn to anymore. My children are successful people. Valentina is a lawyer. She's always in a hurry. Always on business. Dad, I have a client, and turns it off. My son, Igor, lives in the capital. I last saw him 2 years ago. I came for half an hour, hugged him, took a selfie, and left. He said, "We need to visit more often." No need. I'm used to it. They're good, yes. They send money. But what is money to me when I count not pennies, but looks? When the only thing I get from people is silence or polite smiles, behind which lies the fatigue of my presence. Grandchildren. They are generally silent. 2 teenage girls, always on their phones. Igor brought them over once. They were sitting in the kitchen, eating pizza and switching videos. I tried to speak, to tell them something about life. And they didn't even look up. I was still laughing then, saying, "Youth." And then I went into the room and cried. Real tears. Old, salty, bitter. My life is silence. I wake up at 5. Automatically. Like in the barracks. But now instead of the sergeant's scream, there is only the cracking of joints and the whispering of the ceiling. I make coffee, listen to it boil, and think about who I'm making it for. And then I drink it, bitter, strong, like a pity. I read a newspaper that I buy for myself. I open it carefully so as not to tear it, because the pages, like me, are already fragile. I go to the store. A small one, 2 blocks away. The saleswoman there is Marichka, 20 years old. She doesn't look me in the eye. She says the same thing to everyone, next. And it doesn't matter if you're gray-haired or young. I give her a change, and she throws the change away without touching her hands. As if she's afraid. Or disgusted. I see, behind her, a young man with an earring is mocking. He whispers, "Look, an old man has come for a walk." I'm silent. I'm always silent. The hospital is even worse. A queue. The smell of antiseptic. And the nurse, young, wearing glasses, speaks to me condescendingly, slowly, as if I were deaf or stupid. "Do you know where the therapist is?" "Well, where the sign is." "Yes, I know," I say. But she has already turned away. I am an empty place. The scariest thing is not the words. The scariest thing is not being seen. When I walk down the street, I suddenly realize, no one stops. No one says, "Good morning." No one asks how I am. No acquaintances, no neighbors. Once I was a voice. Now I am just background noise. But I remember who I am. I remember who I was. And that is what hurts the most. Because it is harder to fall from a height. And I fell, not the body, but the spirit. I am not old. I am invisible. And with each passing day, something bitter, dark is born in me, scratching my heart from the inside. First, resentment. Then, disappointment. And now, silence. Not empty. Not dead. But expectant. I write. In a notebook lying by the bed. No dates, no complaints. Just days and names. Saleswoman. Granddaughter. Doctor. Neighbor. Son. Maybe it's just senile madness. Or maybe it's the beginning of a game. A game in which I will no longer remain silent. I often sit in the kitchen, without turning on the light, just listening to the water dripping from the tap. Each drop is like a metronome that measures not time, but memories. Sometimes it seems to me that I am not at home, but in some cell from the past, where every sound is a key to another event. Those events do not want to leave me alone. And I am no longer running away, I am going to meet them. I remember the army. The 4th Battalion. A hot summer, when the earth groaned under my feet, and the sky was pouring lead. I held the machine gun like a brother's hand, and squeezed it tightly, because I knew, if I let go, I would not even have time to scream. I saw my comrades fall. Not in the movies, not at a parade, in the mud, with my eyes open. I carried the wounded from the field. And I carried those scars on me for a long time. Not in body, in soul. I was taught not to be afraid of pain. Not to bend. To be a wall. And I became one. After the army, I returned to the city, where everyone considered me a hero. But no one gave me a job. Because a hero is a status for newspapers, not for accounting. I started from scratch. I sold auto parts from a garage. I went to the factory for parts, to the market for customers. And somehow it took off. Not quickly. But stubbornly. I created a business that fed not only me, but 15 other families. I got them back on their feet, paid them on time, treated them, helped them. They respected me. Not because they were afraid. But because they knew that I keep my word. Then there was her. Luba. Light. Peace. She knew how to be silent in a way that became healing. We didn't shout at each other, we understood. When Valentina was born, Luba held her in a blanket like a shrine. And when Igor was born, I cried. At the top of my voice. Because I realized that now I had something to live for. And then, cancer. A year of struggle. And emptiness. I buried her in silence. And then I sat all night by her things. And in the morning I realized, now I am alone. And I have to be 2 parents. I raised my children as best I could. I didn't beat them, I taught them. I didn't shout, I talked. I didn't force them, I set an example. Every night I sat over assignments, over essays, over notebooks. I took them to clubs, treated colds, folded their briefcases. And I never complained. Because these were my children. My meaning. My blood. I remember when Igor first said, "Dad, I want to be like you." And I smiled. Because it was the greatest recognition. We didn't live in luxury, but in dignity. I bought this house where I live now. It was old, but we renovated it together. Igor plastered the walls. Valia painted. We laughed. We were a family. And then time, as always, took away the most valuable thing, sincerity. They grew up. They left. They started their own families. And they started calling less and less often. At first every week. Then once a month. Now, on holidays. I continued. I helped with money. I bought gifts for my grandchildren. I gave to the last one. Because faith in family is like faith in God, it does not require proof. And then the business collapsed. Competitors ate it up. I did not cry. I was silent again. Because I was used to the fact that the support is me. But at that moment I thought for the first time, if I fall, who will support me? Nobody. Nobody noticed when I started limping. Nobody heard when I first couldn't sleep because of the pain. Nobody asked when I sold my watch that they gave me for 50. Because there wasn't enough for medicine. And in this silence is the worst cry. The cry, "We don't need you anymore." I wasn't angry. At first, no. Because I was justifying them. They are busy. They are young. The world has changed. But then I began to see, when they need money, they call. When they need to sit with the children, they call. And just like that, never. I sit in my room, where Luba's old wardrobe is still kept, her scarf, the smell of which has long since disappeared. And I think, is my whole path really a road to oblivion? And then I take a notebook. And I write, Day 1. Memories. I still remember. Who I was. And who you were. And you will remember too. Soon. I've never been sentimental. Tears are not my way of expressing emotions. I swallow them. Like pills. Bitterly, but silently. But there's a limit beyond which even silence begins to ripen, and then something breaks in the silence. This summer, Valentina arrived. Without warning. With her husband, that slippery guy with the narcissistic look and a brand new electric car. They didn't come in, like they used to, with pies or hugs. They came in like auditors. They looked at everything appraisingly. They asked about medicine, the refrigerator, and blood pressure. But not out of concern, but with a plan in mind. Dad, she said, sitting down opposite me, Igor and I thought. It's already hard for you here alone, isn't it? I was silent. She continued, there's a good private institution. A home for people of respectable age. Everything is comfortable. Medical care, food, care. There's even chess there. You want to give me up, I said, without looking up. It's not give me up, Dad. It's about comfort. For you. I looked up. There was no warmth in her gaze. There was only a desire to absolve myself of responsibility. I wasn't judging them. I simply knew that everything I meant to them had become an inconvenience. I'll play chess with you. If you come, I said. They didn't answer. In the evening, when they left, I stood by the mirror for a long time. I looked at my face. Wrinkles, shadows under my eyes, crooked fingers. But in the eyes. There was still a person alive in the eyes. They don't see that. Igor called the following week. Not to apologize, but to confirm, I made an agreement. The place will be free in a month. Money is not an issue. I was silent. It will be better for everyone, he added. I remembered that sentence. Forever. The grandson came alone. Bogdan. 16 years old. I was sitting in the living room, looking at the phone. I tried to joke, so, Cossack, how are your girls? What? Without looking up from the screen. I'm telling you, maybe you can tell Grandpa something funny? He sighed. Disdainfully. I got up and went to the kitchen. From there, through the door, I heard, take him somewhere already. He's unbearable. He stinks of mold. He stinks. That's the memory he'll have of me. Not the stories, not the nights by the bed with a fever, not the gifts. The smell. Mold. I didn't go out to see him then. I just wrote in my notebook, Bogdan. 16, he stinks of mold. In the hospital, it's a different humiliation. The doctor is young, self-confident, flips through my chart without even looking at me. You need a new protocol. You know that your pills are morally obsolete, right? But they help me, let me decide what helps you. Okay? His tone is the same as I once spoke to subordinates who cheated. But I was fair. And he was simply indifferent. I wanted to say, I could be your father. I paid taxes when you were still in diapers sucking your thumb. But I was silent. And again, the notebook, Dr. 32. Condescending. No respect. The climax came at the most unexpected moment. I was walking down the street. Hot. My left leg went numb, I couldn't go any further. I sat down on a bench, looked at the pedestrian, a girl, about 30. She was walking with coffee, headphones. "Excuse me," I said. "You couldn't." She looked. Her eyes were cold, with an involuntary grimace of disgust. And she answered, "You're all just waiting to be pitted." She spoke loudly. People around her turned. Two giggled. Someone filmed the video. And I fell. Right onto the sidewalk. Into a puddle. I lay there. And I heard no one stop. No one. I saw the sky. Blue, indifferent. And at that moment, something inside me broke. No. It didn't break. It woke up. What I had buried many years ago, the cold, the calculation, the inner silence before the blow. It wasn't a cry of pain. It was an epiphany. I'm no longer a victim. I returned home alone. Without help. Wet, dirty. I went in, changed clothes, sat down. And started writing. The game began. Not physically. No. It would be different. A smart, quiet, sophisticated revenge. Without blood. But with consequences. They would know what they had lost. And everyone will feel it. I sat for a long time in front of the window that night. The street was empty, just like me. But inside, something was alive. No, not anger. Not despair. But clarity. Cold, like ice water that wakes the body after sleep. I understood, not screaming is my loudest scream. Not hitting is my most painful blow. Not begging is my greatest strength. There will be no more hope. There will be a plan. In the basement of my house stands an old iron box. I've been hiding it since the 90s. There are documents, newspaper clippings, envelopes with signatures, files. Not because I was paranoid. But because I was a businessman. And I knew, every person is a story. And a story can either be told or controlled. I pulled out what I once called the lace of influence. Old phones, passwords, connections. People who owe me. Some are already dead. Some have become even bigger. But everyone remembers me. Because I never asked twice. And I never forgot. I called one. "Do you know the name Bogdan Kovalchuk?" I asked. "Is this the young man who won the city grant?" The voice answered. "Yes. I want his mother to find out that he is a plagiarist. And for the university to inquire about his integrity." Easy? Everything is easy for you, Denis. I thanked him. I hung up the phone. And I wrote down, goal, not to destroy. To open eyes. I created an anonymous account. I wrote a letter to the health department hotline. I attached an audio recording, the voice of a doctor from the reception area, saying, "Pensioners think that everyone owes them. And they are just ballast." How did I get the recording? Have you forgotten who I was? Where people only see the office, I see the source of information. I called the girl from the reception who was once looking for a job. I helped her. And she reciprocated. I started sending Valentina letters. Anonymous. With quotes from her past. The words she told me, "We will all become a burden someday." I left her a note on her car while she was having lunch at a restaurant. A burden has a long memory. She called her brother. Igor came to her. And I set up their conversation through an accidental leak on social media, a video from a surveillance camera in front of the house. "He's gone crazy," says Igor. "We need to get it done quickly." "And if we don't have time?" she asks. "He knows too much." Under the video, hundreds of comments, "This is his own father. Disgusting. Shame. But I prepared the most important trap for my grandson. I didn't destroy him publicly. I made sure that he received a letter, in which it was written on his behalf, "I am ashamed of the way I treated my grandfather. He deserves respect." This letter ended up in the school newspaper. His classmates congratulated him. But he didn't write that letter. And he couldn't justify himself, because, as it turned out, it was sent from his laptop. I didn't kill anyone. I didn't raise my voice. I just moved the mirror. Now they look at themselves and see what they did to me. Every action is like a move in chess. I don't cut pieces. I checkmate without shouting. My diary is no longer just a notebook. It's a philosophy. I called it Silence That Punishes. It has a page for everyone: Igor, a page with a list of his financial dependencies. Now his firm has lost an investor because someone whispered to him about old tax inaccuracies. Valentina, a page with the names of her former clients. One of them filed a complaint because he learned about her words about her father's recklessness. Bodon, a page with the date when he began to fear the telephone, because he doesn't know what else will come out. My house no longer seems empty. Every wall echoes a plan. I am no longer a grandfather sitting silently on a bench. I am an architect. Not of pain, but of awareness. And every day I turn on the old gramophone. I listen to Bach. And I imagine them, in their comfortable homes, looking at the screen and reading another message: "You taught me to be silent. I learned to be silent so that everyone can hear me." A month has passed since the evening I wrote the last move. Today is silence. But different. Not deaf. Not empty. It is the silence after a storm, in which everything fell into place. The house stands the same. The walls are the same. But I am not the same. And they are no longer the same. I did not expect gratitude. And there was none. But I saw Igor knock for the first time, not just walk in. I saw Valentina move the phone aside when we sat down to dinner. And even Bodon, the one who used to grimace, now silently helps me carry my bag from the store. We do not talk about what happened. And we do not need to. Because true repentance is not in words. They have learned to see me. Not as a burden. But as a presence. Not as a remnant of the past. But as a reminder, life does not forgive indifference. Something has changed in the town. The saleswoman in the store, Marichka, has suddenly become more friendly. She doesn't know that her video with mockery has been sent to an organization for service ethics. She doesn't know why she's now being told, "Watch your tongue." But now she looks me in the eye when she speaks. A young doctor from a polyclinic. Fired. Not because of me. Because of an incident that was brought up for discussion. But I left a small letter in the waiting room. Anonymous. Silent voices hear better when others are silent. I opened my diary. For the last time. There's no need to write anymore. It's finished. Not as a list of enemies. But as the evolution of a soul that the world has forced to wake up. I reread the first pages: resentment, disappointment, loneliness. And then I turn to the last: plan, retribution, advantage. But I didn't become a monster. I didn't break them. I just made them see what they didn't want to see. Someone would ask, "How do you feel now, Denis? Did you win?" No. I learned not to need victory. Because the strongest are not those who win. But those who, having lost, forced the rules of the game to change forever. Yesterday I was sitting on a bench near the house. The same one where I was once humiliated. And this time, a girl smiled at me. Not with pity. But with respect. She didn't know who I was. But perhaps she felt that in front of her was not just an old man. But someone who remained himself, even when the whole world was erasing him. My children no longer talk about the nursing home. They talk about the renovation in this house. Like, it needs to be updated. And I'm silent. I smile. For the first time, sincerely. Bodon doesn't look at his phone when I'm with him. He asks questions. And even writes down my answers. He says he wants to make a story about dignity out of this. Interesting. In the last entry in my diary, I don't write my name. And not the date. I'm writing a phrase that maybe someone will find someday. And understand. Never forget, the quietest voices sound the loudest when the world isn't listening. But everyone will have to listen. I closed the notebook. I put it in a drawer. And went out onto the porch. The sun was setting. The day was fading. But inside me, finally there was light. Subscribe and like. And tell your friends about this video.